Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Vagarthaviva Sampriktau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Yenakshara Samamnayam Adhigamya Maheshwarat Kritsnam Vyakaranam Proktam Tasmai Paninaye Namaha Vakyakaram Vararuchim Bhashyakaram Patanjalim Paninim Sutrakarancha Pranatosmi Munitrayam. We start with a prayer to Lord Ganesha that may our study of this language be free from obstacles. To Saraswati, who is the very knowledge personified, Ishvara looked upon as the Adhisthana Devata for knowledge. To Ishvara and Parvati, basically to Ishvara, for the understanding of words and their meanings. Vagartha viva sampriktau, Vagartha pratipattaye, Jagatah pitarau vande, Parvati parameshwarau. In some days, in some time, you will also be able to understand the meaning yourself. That's the hope, okay? That's where we begin. What does that verse say? Ishvara and Prakriti is Devi, Maya Rupini. They are connected inseparably. Devi is never separate from Ishvara. Same way, a word and its meaning are inseparably connected. And in order to understand Vagartha Pratipattaye, to understand a word and its meaning, what do? Jagataha Pitarau Vande. We salute to the Lord of the universe and mother, both. Pitarau. Pitarau stands for both father and mother. Parvati Parameshwarau. Who are they? Parvati and Parameshwarau. And then we made a prayer to Panini, because without him, whom this language would not have given us so much pleasure to study today, to understand it. Panini and the whole parampara. So if I am able to be here today and say I will be able to share something I know, I have to remember first my teacher, Pujya Swamiji, Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati, who inspired me to study Sanskritam a lot more than I would have cared to, and then directed me to my teacher, Swamini Brahma Prakashananda at Nagpur, who is a phenomenal teacher of Sanskrit, especially of Sanskrit. Not that she's not a good teacher of Vedanta, but I'm saying when it comes to Sanskrit, I think she made it so beautiful and wonderful that the learning was a pleasure all the way. So I seek her blessings as well, that what I share with you may bless all of you with understanding. So with these prayers, and of course, all of you who encouraged me to start this class, and many more who have encouraged me while I was teaching in before, have all been instrumental in my being able to share what I'm going to share. Okay. And before all this began, my own mother and my teachers in school have been a big blessing. But for my mother, I would have run away from Sanskrit long ago. So I owe it to her that I'm able to stay with the language and enjoy it so much. Okay. So with this much as a prayer, we will now begin the class. So before you ask me, let me say the The videos for these classes will be made available to you. Okay, so you don't have to worry about, do I have to look only at audio? No, the video will be made available to you on YouTube as an unlisted channel. Okay, so you can go back to it at your own time. Class material wise, I will share with you what I can, and I will point you to the right resources as we go forward. All right. So we have this 1 week, we'll have classes every day. And after that, we will decide whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. But when you're in the class, you sit back, relax, and try to understand what is happening. Don't let anything else matter. Okay. That's all that counts. So my intention in this class, let me tell you how I see this class going. In general, Sanskrit, if you want to study today, Sanskrit means what? Samskritam. English, anglicized version is Sanskrit. But what is the language? What is it called in the language? Samskritam. Samskritam means what? Well done. Samyakkritam. A language which is well done. You will recognize and appreciate why we have to call it well done. Because indeed it is so well done. Starting from the way the letters are organized, the way the words are organized, the way the sentences are organized. I mean, it's Samyakkritam all the way. All the way. There's nothing in it which is lacking. And it was intended for people who did not have writing to start with. It's an oral tradition, which means you have to be able to recall what you hear. So the language is not just standing alone. The language came with chandas, meters. If I say Vagarthayo Sampriktau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau, if that has to come easily, that's because it is metric in nature. The whole Veda is metric in nature. So our language was meant to be studied. Language is kept in your head. Grammar is kept in your head. Dictionary is kept in your head. All that you want to study is kept in your head. So in the first 25 years, you just store everything very well. You understand too, but mainly you store everything very well because that's the time storage works very well. And after that, you don't need books. Teacher also has no book. Student also has no book. Everybody opens their own book and studies. That's how this language was. Even 2 generations ago, if you ask them the dictionary, they could at least tell you a few lines of it. What's called Amarakosha, which is really the one which inspired Roget. Roget's thesaurus is inspired by Amarakosha. So he says there was Amarasimha who made this thesaurus much before me. So the language is beautiful, but as I said, the way it was designed is it's an oral tradition and everything has to be kept in the head. And you will discover why more things need to be kept in the head as well as we go. Therefore, the style of teaching the language in general, the learning process of anything in India used to be predominantly rote-based, whose effects you see in school till today. So when we were in class, primary, it used to be oral exams. In fact, we didn't have to write. You go and, say what you have to say, and the teacher will say, okay, you did well. That's it. Because the entire Vedic learning is by memorization. Memorization, not just of words. Every word must be pronounced right, including the swaras. Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita, those who know Vedic chanting will know what I'm talking about. So all these have to be kept in view. And the matra, how long a vowel goes, how long a vyanjana goes, everything is alertness. It calls for alertness. Puja Swamiji would say that Sanskritam is not just for language, it's for Antahkarana Shuddhi. Because you have to be alert, all the way alert. And the language is such that, see, in English, when we speak, there is an order, right? So if I say, Rama teaches Lakshmana, it has a meaning. Rama teaches Lakshmana. Suppose you reverse this words now, what will you get? Lakshmana teaches Rama. That won't work. The meaning is changed completely. Student-teacher relationship is reversed. And you cannot say, if you are a good Englishman, teaches Rama Lakshmana. That won't work either. Right? But what is amazing about Sanskritam? You can say in Sanskritam, Rama Lakshmana teaches Lakshmana Rama, Rama Lakshmana teaches. Anything you can say, any order will work. What do you have to do? You have to figure out in your head, what does a sentence mean irrespective of the order? What does that call for? Alertness. That's what I said. Swami, you would say, study of Panini, study of Sanskritam in our 3-year course is not meant only for, language. It is meant to give you antahkarana shuddhi, meant to give you a clean thinking ability, objective thinking. So Sanskritam has got many more benefits. Now you will read. If you have fear of, becoming senile, getting the things like memory is going away from you, then what's a good remedy? Study Sanskritam. It will keep your neurons firing, won't let you go senile. All right. So these are side benefits. People will say, Sanskrit is the best language for AI. These are all claims are okay. But I'm saying that's not what really should drive us. In this class, my intention is to say, one day we are able to understand and appreciate Shastra more. That's the purpose. So to do that, we have to do a few things. We have to learn. But as I said, because of reasons, many reasons, the language depended a lot on memory, learning of the language. And you were taught that from a child. So in the Gurukula system, where every child was supposed to go to study Veda, 6 months of the year, you are supposed to study Veda. And the other 6 months was meant for Vedanga, the limbs of the Veda, which will help you understand, appreciate the Veda. And one of the limbs is what? Vyakaranam. Grammar. And that is called, the Vyakarana is the Mukha of the Veda. So if you pronounce something wrong in the Veda, it's equivalent to tearing out the tongue of Ishvara. That's why we have so much respect for the right pronunciation, especially Veda. So one needs to learn the language phonetically, not purely by books. First, in the beginning, So that's why I have set a safe limit, safe, prerequisite. You should know the basic alphabet, which means you should know pronunciation. Because that's very difficult to teach on Zoom with a large class. Okay, we will look into it as we go. So the general way of teaching is a lot more by rote. What I would like to do in this class is bring in some rote. Obviously, I gave you 1 month ago notice what you can start memorizing, so you can have a head start. But I see ourselves all as adults who have good cognitive abilities. We have skills in math, we have skills in science. Now these can be used to make our learning easier and more effective. It need not be done as a child is taught. It can be done a little differently. And for us, all in middle ages or, over 50, we don't have too much time either. Therefore, you want an accelerated path to learning, right? So the acceleration is given through the use of grammar. So to me, grammar, see, actually the Sanskrit grammar, what is grammar actually? Does grammar come first or language come first? The language comes first, all right? Unlike, the modern AI language, right? Or C language or Java, where the language comes from the grammar. There is no language other than the grammar. Whereas Sanskrit is a natural language. Then when did grammar come? The grammar comes by the study of the language. And the entire language is codified by Panini, a great scholar, with what aim? To only show which words in the language are clean, are appropriate. This much. Shabda sadhutvam. Which words are appropriate and which are, which have crept in colloquially. Not exactly clean language, not sadhu. So Panini's purpose is to show what is sadhu language. And he has done such a phenomenal job that in a small set of just 4,000 tiny rules, he has encompassed the whole language. The whole language. All details of it are included. So this is the language. And the way he has, see, the rules all have to be reverse engineered. The language is already there. You have to make rules to explain the language. And it has to be done using the same language. Therefore, there's a meta language involved. No? You overload the existing language to learn more about the language. That is the brilliance of Panini, which also you will get introduced to in time. So now, in the process, he has shown us how the words are built. See, it's not that the words were born that way. Suppose now, you hear a word, pumpkin. Pumpkin. What is pumpkin? You know what a pumpkin means, correct? You all know what a pumpkin means. You don't have to know anything more about it. All right? But then, every word has to be known individually then. Because what is a word and its meaning? It's really an association. How is the new word coined? So this object did not exist, 50 years ago. Right? Now this object exists and it's got a name. What's the name? It's called a mouse. It's called a mouse. And you all understand when I say mouse, what do you understand? If I say laptop, you understand what it means today. But 50 years ago, laptop would have meant something completely different. So what is language really? An association between a word and its meaning. Now, if every word and its meaning has to be understood individually, how many words can you cram in? And how many words can you understand? So the approach to vocabulary would be a lot easier if there was a method to it. And the method involves basically breaking down every word into its components. Every word can be broken down into components. This is not something unique to Sanskrit. You see this in English too, though to a much lesser degree. English has got its words from a host of languages. So if you go and try to look at the etymology of an English word, it will tell you one came from French origin, one is Latin origin, one is Greek origin, right? So if you say pedestrian in English, pedestrian, what do you understand? One who walks on the street, doesn't use a vehicle, he walks. Why do you get that word? What does ped mean? Ped means foot. Ped means foot. All right. But then you have another word, pedantic. What does that mean? Anything to do with the foot? No. You have a word pediatrician. Does it have anything to do with the foot? What is the foot specialist called? Podiatrist, right? I'm not sure. But in pediatrician, what is ped? It's a child. In pedantic, what does pedantic mean? You know, a fellow who teaches in a given way. It's called pedantic. Who is teaching? Children. Ped again is children. One ped, which is foot, is Greek, and one is Roman or Latin, something like that. Now, if you see ped, you can't be sure what it means. Right? And suppose you came up with another word, cot. You get a word, cot, C-O-T, cot. English word. What's its origin? It's the Hindi word cot. The word cot comes from Hindi cot. Have you heard the word juggernaut in English? Juggernaut. Do you know where it comes from? Sanskrit word Jagannath. What does it mean? In Puri, there is this Jagannatha who is taken out for a procession. And when he comes out, it's a huge crowd and he's carried on a chariot. And people, when a chariot moves, it's unstoppable. It's very heavy and it's a huge crowd. So anything which comes on its way gets crushed in a way. That's the meaning for the word juggernaut. Came from the word Jagannath. So you can see that actually, even if you understand the origin of the words, I find language becomes such a pleasure because you understand how each word comes. And it's so much fun to know, oh, this is how this word came about. Right? So in English, it's harder to do because there are too many origins and it is not so well organized. Now, whether Sanskritam evolved like the other languages or it was given, we have no way of knowing. But it is called what? Devavani, Amaravani. It's called the language of Devas. And it is also considered to be given. Given by Ishvara, who is all-knowing. Therefore, language better be very clean. We don't have to rely on that. But all I'm saying is, the language is much better organized. And the organization is in terms of every word being able to be split into respective components. So in English, if you take a word, so if I said egregious, or egregious, I don't know how it's pronounced, okay? In that, we say there are three components. One is the root, one is a prefix, and one is what? A suffix or a postfix. E is a prefix, Greg is the root, and OUS is the suffix. Sanskrit is not very different in that matter. Basics, I'm saying. Okay. We have what? We will have a root, dhatu. We call it dhatu. You will hear this word very often, but hear it once for now first. Dhatu means what? That which holds. That's the meaning. Not just an element. Element is a simple way. Dha. The word dhatu itself comes from a root, which is dhudhanj, dharana, poshana, yuho, that which supports. So the entire language is held by roots, dhatu. And the dhatus can have a prefix, which is called upasarga. Don't worry about these words, okay? I want you to understand the concepts. Words you will understand in time. Upasarga. All right. And what comes after? Not only after a dhatu, but comes after many things in Sanskrit. That is called pratyaya. It's called pratyaya. That which comes later. What is pratyaya? That which comes later. That's how you understand. Dhatoho pratyayaha parascha. I'm telling this for people who have studied some Pani. They can correlate. Okay? Pratyayaha parascha. Paraha means comes later. Comes after something. Okay? And we tend to use two words in forming of words. One is called prakriti. Prakriti means the material cause in a way. Prakarshena kriti hetutvat prakriti. You will hear the same words in Vedanta, nothing different, okay? I deliberately use the words here and there so that you don't have to do a second learning for that. When we study Vedanta and we talk of Jagat Karanam, we say what? There is Prakriti, Maya. And what do we say Prakriti? That which is available for a lot of changes. Kriti Hetutva, that which becomes the basis for making more things. That is Prakriti. And what we add to it is Pratyaya. Prakriti, Pratyaya. So, what will Prakriti? Prakriti will have its meaning, some meaning, and Pratyaya will have some meaning. Will have some meaning. And when the two come together, what should you do? You should bring in the meaning of Prakriti and Pratyaya together to understand the whole word. That's all you have to do. Okay? So whole Sanskritam is what? Understanding the words. What is the Prakriti? What is the Pratyaya? That's all. Very simple. And fortunately, Pratyayas are finite. Pratyayas are finite, okay? I didn't say anything about Prakriti. I don't want to discourage you, okay? Why? There is no limit to Prakriti. How many Prakritis can be there? Infinite. But there is a method to the madness. It's not madness, in fact. There are certain Prakritis which are known. Main starting Prakriti, Adi Prakriti is Dhatu, a root. Other Prakritis will be derived using the root. And how it is derived, we will understand to some extent. All right. So the Vyakarana Shastra, what is called grammar, predominantly deals with words. Pada. So you understand words. And then there is the knack of understanding sentences, which is another ball game. You first have to understand letters, for which there is a lot to do. You will be surprised. There are books this thick or more, which are called Shiksha, which are about how the letters have to be pronounced. They rule the phonology in a specific recension of the Veda. It has its own extras. So there is Shiksha. So what does the language consist of now? You have letters or alphabet. Then you have words which are intelligently put together alphabets. Alphabets which are joined together in a specific way. And then there are sentences which are words which are intelligently put together. Right? So what is language? Finally, what is language? What communicates? Is sentences. The letters and the words are meant for sentences. A lion also communicates. A bird also communicates, but it cannot speak like you and I do. Right? So a bird's cooing, the English word is cooing. A bird coos, right? One of the words. Twitters, coos, you have many different words. Sanskrit dhatu is kuj. Kujati. A cuckoo, kujati. Kokilaha, kujati. Means what? It doesn't talk. It coos. It coos. Whereas a human being does what? Speaks. Speaks. Vyaktayam vachi. Every letter is clearly vyakta. Whereas pujanam, it is avyakta. You can't make out what the different components are. It's a sound called a shabda. The word shabda can mean any sound. Can mean a word too. Every sound is a shabda. A is a shabda. U is a shabda. Uch, ouch is also shabda. Any language. Shabda is a sound. A shabda which follows certain rules to make it a word. And the word, technically a word which can be used in a sentence, is called a pada. Pada. Pada means a word. Don't take it as any word which has letters together. A word which is complete and can be used in a sentence. So for example, if I wanted to say apple, and if I put APPL, that's not a word yet, not a pada. Apple, you can pronounce, but it's not a pada of the language. What is the pada? APPLE. Okay. So in Sanskrit, you will find there is more nuances here to be known. Okay. Because what constitutes a padam is very important. All right. We have to understand that. And only when the padams are understood, padam means words. I will use the word for padam, okay, in English. So you should understand when I say padam means I mean word. All right. So the pada has to be understood, and then the syntax means what? How the padas relate to each other in a sentence must be understood. Like I told you, Rama first as it teaches Lakshmana. Now what? Rama killed Ravana. Rama killed Ravana. What do you understand? You understand something? Correct? Now, what is the minimum in a sentence? What's a sentence basically? A sentence is related words. But what is the minimum requirement in a sentence? Suppose I were to say apple. Is that a sentence? We have to understand, is that a sentence or not? I, is that a sentence? You, is that a sentence? I, you, is that a sentence? What is a sentence? So for our purposes now, you understand that sentence will be one which has an activity. Some activity. And here, mind you, an activity does not necessarily mean some movement. It can also mean the presence. Okay. So now, if I were to say to you, killed. Okay, before I go there. When I say Rama, in the sentence, Rama killed Wali. When I say Rama, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? Does something come to your mind? Assuming you have watched Ramayana serial, okay? Something comes to your mind? Or take a more general example, okay? Because some people may not be able to relate to Rama killed Vali. Let me make it simpler, okay? So I will say, dog runs to the temple. Dog runs to the temple. Now, when you hear the word dog, do you understand what it means? When you hear the word temple, do you understand what it means? When you hear word runs, do you understand what it means? Each of these words are understood without a sentence. Before you understand the words, you cannot understand a sentence. How do you understand the word dog? How did you ever understand the word dog? You remember? You will know how you taught your children. Come here. Call a little fellow and say what? Bhau, bhau. What is bhau, bhau? That every child will understand. Without being taught, will understand. Ka. In India, kaka is well understood. What is kaka? A crow. Because it says ka. Very straightforward. Similarly, bhau is what? A dog. So first a child might learn bhau. Then later is taught what? That is a dog. It correlates the word. First, bhau, it hears the sound and it knows the animal which creates that sound is this fellow. It's a dog. It's a bhau. Then it becomes what? You associated bhau with a dog. Correct? This is how you get words. So how do you understand any word? By pratyaksha pramanam. Perception. The means of perception is the means to understand a word. You hear a word, you see an object, or you smell an object, or you taste an object, right? With any of your senses, and you associate it with what? A word, which is a sound. This is all that is happening when you understand words. Whether it's Indian or French or English or Spanish makes no difference. This is how every language has to be. Right? So we say that words in itself do not constitute language for communication of humans. Because suppose I said dog, what will you understand? Dog, what will you understand? But if I said dog is inside the house, you will understand something. If I say the dog bit somebody, you'll understand something. If I say bite dog, what will you understand? Nothing. So what is it that glues a sentence together? There must be something you want to talk about, either a fact or an event happening. All right. Now, this is what we will call an action for now. All right. So the centerpiece of a sentence is an action. Is it clear? Nothing that you should have difficulty understanding right now. Okay. Now, if I say runs, even the word runs is understood by you in some way. Again, by association, perception and association. Walk, you have one perception. Run, you have another perception. Saunters, you have another perception. Slides, you have another perception. Correct? Wriggles, you have another perception. Crawls. See each of these words, do you follow? You have a meaning in your head, right? But that alone is not enough for communication. Now I ask you, if I say runs and you want to understand what I'm communicating and you're free to ask me any questions, what would you ask? What runs or who runs? Correct? Who runs? Then where does it run to? Where is it coming from, running from? Right? Where does the whole running happen? At what time does it happen? Right? Does it run alone or with friends, the dog? Does it run quietly or runs barking? You can ask a lot of questions, right? And each of them is going to make your sentence more and more meaningful. Correct? So now, this action is called in Sanskrit kriya. The word is kriya. Kriya means what? An action. Kru, to do. That's the root. You do something. Whatever you do is action. But doing, as I said, don't think it does not include being. Technically, being is also a root. All right. So do. Now, when you say, you have now what? Who runs? He runs. Who is he? The dog. You cannot just call it, okay? Dog is very respected nowadays. You have to call it he or she. He runs. Who? Johnny. Johnny runs. So name, he's got a name too. Right? So now the sentence makes some sense to you or not? Johnny runs. You can say, you know something now. You can say something about it. Now what? Johnny runs to the gate. Runs to the gate because he's in a compound. And when somebody comes to the gate, he runs to the gate. So now, gate is a destination to where he runs. So how do you say it in English? Johnny runs to the gate. From where did he run? From the porch of your house, veranda. Johnny runs from the veranda, from the porch to the gate. How does he run? Fast. Right? Now, Johnny, who is that? A new guy you hired in your house? No, Johnny the dog. Johnny the dog. Right? So you see what I'm doing now? I'm just stringing the words together. Correct? So I said what? First basic sentence what? Johnny runs to the gate. How do you know gate is a destination or not? How do you know? Johnny runs to the gate. How do you know? From the porch. So you understand the porch is what? The origin. And gate is what? The end point, the destination of going. How do you know that the gate is a destination in English when I have a sentence? Johnny runs from the porch to the gate. What gives it away? That's the destination. The word to. Correct? To the gate. And if I just flip the word gate and porch, the whole sentence will become what? The dog will be running, Johnny will be running from the gate to the porch. And the meaning will become what? Completely different. So the meaning of the sentence now depends on the order of the words. Correct? Now, Sanskrit is different in this regard. There are various factors of action involved in this, all right? One is Johnny. Okay. So can I call him the agent of the action of running? The action is to run. Who is the agent? Johnny. All right. Without an agent of an action, can any action take place? Be it running, be it eating, be it seeing, be it cooking, any action, driving. Can there be an action without an agent? Therefore, the agent is a very primary factor in an action. Okay, the primary factor to accomplish an action. The factors that help accomplish an action in Sanskrit are called Karaka. What are they called? Karaka. Word to be remembered. Okay. Karaka means what? When we understand language more, you'll understand. Karaka means that which causes. So the word will explain itself in time to you. But for now, you understand what? Karaka is that which brings about an action, is one of the factors in bringing about, in accomplishing an action. All right. Now, so this Johnny is what? The agent. All right. Now, what is the origin of his action? The porch. The origin of action is another factor in accomplishing the action. He cannot run from nowhere to nowhere. You need an origin. But every sentence does not need an origin. Correct? So if I say, Johnny ate an apple, you don't ask from where. It's not necessary, okay? Johnny ate an apple is good enough. Even Johnny went to the gate is good enough. You don't need the origin. But in going, there's an origin and a destination. But in eating, you need not have an origin. You can have an origin for the apple. You could have the origin of the apple in your hand to go to your mouth, but it's not necessary. But without the agent, there is no action. All right? There is an origin. Now, if I said Johnny ate an apple, how do you understand the word apple? It is an object of what? Of the verb to eat. It is an object with reference to verb to eat. Our interest is what are the factors of action, Karakas, which relate with an action. We want to generalize that. So there is an agent of an action. There is an object of an action. Now, Johnny eats an apple. How? With a spoon, is it? Suppose it's cut apples, not a whole apple. How will he eat it? Maybe with a spoon, or maybe with a fork, or maybe the fork and a knife. We don't know how he'll eat it, right? But what we know is he uses an instrument to eat the apple. Okay. So the action of eating has a factor of action, which is the instrument for accomplishing the action. Is that clear? There is an object, there is an agent, there's an instrument. There could be an origin. Now, I said destination for running. Destination is like the object for running. Eating, the object is apple. Reaching destination is the object of going, right? Therefore, the destination can also be called what? An object. When there is a verb involving movement, the destination becomes an object. All right. Now, when did Johnny eat the apple? In the evening at 5. That time. Or where? In his living room. Place. These are typical locations for an action. Either location for an action, or the location of the agent of the action, or the location for the object of an action. So we have what now? An agent, an object, an instrument, right? a potential origin, and a location. Now, there is one more factor of action which is very unique to our culture. Okay? And that is the recipient of something you give in an action. Okay? So, for example, if you're doing a religious ceremony at your home, a Vedic ceremony, and now one part of it is you have to give a dakshina. You have to give a certain reward to a priest that you have requested to officiate your function. He must receive that reward from you. Okay? So whenever there's an action of giving, of which there was plenty in the Veda, because the whole Veda was what? Yajna. Yajna means ritual. Ritual means they'll involve giving. Giving something to the Devata. Giving something to the priest. Giving something to people who came. Give them food. Giving was part of our culture. And the recipient of an action of giving was given a special status as a factor of action. Okay? This is not common. This is very cultural. You can see that. Now, you will hear these words as translations in English. Okay? I am deliberately staying away from those words. Deliberately. So that you won't come with an overload. All right? Now I will tell you what these words are called in Sanskrit first. Okay? The agent is called karta. Kartru or karta. Kartrakaraka. You understand like this. Kartrakaraka means karaka is a factor of accomplishing an action. Kartru is agent. The factor of accomplishing an action in the form of an agent is called kartrakaraka. This is clear? Now I'm only adding words to what we have discussed, okay? Nothing new. The object of an action is also a factor in accomplishing an action, and that has a word karma karaka. Karma. Now, the word karma, don't confuse that with action or punya papa, you know. Oh, we have so much of karma. Our life is all karma. This English, the word karma has no merit to English. Origin of Sanskrit, of course. But that is not the meaning of the word karma here. It is exactly like this. What is this? A mouse. You better don't take it as the one Ganesha writes on, okay? Won't work. There's a different mouse. This, when you speak in terms of a laptop or computers, then the mouse obviously means what? This one, not the one which has a tail. This is a tailless mouse, right? So in any field of knowledge, you will find that each field of knowledge has its own terminology. Its own terminology. You take medicine, you take engineering, you take physics, you take chemistry. The world has its own terminology. Correct? Suppose I were to use the word inertia in general English, plain talk, it has one meaning. But if I use it in physics, it has a different meaning. Correct? Isn't it? Inertia, suppose I say this fellow has got a lot of inertia, means what? Meaning may be similar. But when it comes to physics, you have a clear definition. What is it? The tendency of an object to be in a state of rest or uniform motion is called inertia. It's a definition. But the word inert doesn't mean that necessarily. Right? Same way, a word in the Sanskrit language context, grammar context, you have to understand the definition as given in the language, not outside of it. So don't bring in the word karma as punya papa. That won't work here. What is karma? It is the object. That's a crude meaning. What does it really mean definition wise? It is that which the agent of an action intends to accomplish most. That's how this is defined. What is an object or karma? It is that which the agent of an action intends to accomplish the most through his action. Through his action. So which means, suppose the agent of an action is cooking, means he is a cook. With reference to the action of cooking, he is called a cook. So this person is cooking. What is his purpose? What is his purpose of cooking? To dance? No. What is the purpose? To have something you can eat. A dish, right? Therefore, what is that he cooks? A dish. He cooks dosa. He cooks bread. You won't say cooks bread. Why? This is a specialized word for cook. Cooking bread, you don't cook bread. What do? You bake bread. This is extra. Now the verb changed. Why? Because in the language, cooking has too many meanings. Right? Cooking has too many meanings. So you bake bread, you barbecue something else, a potato. Let's keep it vegetarian. All right. You barbecue a potato. Right. You roast something. You roast nuts. You cook rice. You boil a potato. See how many words are there for one real meaning of cooking. This is how dhatus are, okay? Several possible meanings. And if I use the word cook, suppose I said, he cooked a potato. You better know what it means, okay? I mean, in the context, you have to understand. If I say cooked his meal, it may involve many of these steps. But whatever I'm saying, the object of the action of cooking is what? To produce an outcome from the action of cooking. And what is the outcome? It is bread. It is baked potato. It is cooked rice. Therefore, that is what is called karma. Is that clear? That which you intend to produce or make happen through your action, the most important thing is called karma. This is all Paninian definition, okay? So when you study Panini, you will find you're gliding in. No trouble. Set it up front. Now, instrument. Instrument like the spoon to eat your porridge or a fork to eat your fruit. It's called an instrument. Or you use your hand. You use 5 spoons to eat your food. India, we don't use a spoon. We use our hand, okay? That's also an instrument. Hastena khadati. Okay. So now this factor of action, technically it is called karana. It's called karanam. Karanam means an instrument. That by which an action is, using which an action is accomplished. That by using the help of which an action is accomplished. Example, another example. You want to lift a heavy stone. You want to lift a heavy stone in your garden. Very heavy. How do you lift it? Not with your bare hands. What do? You use a lever. You use a lever. What's the lever? That, you will use it in such a way that the length of the lever will reduce the energy you need to raise it. Correct? You use the principle of physics. And what is that lever for our purposes now? It is an instrument in the action of lifting. Okay? It's called karanam. All right. Then, a recipient of an action of giving has got a very special name in Sanskritam. Technically, is called sampradana. Sampradana. I'm deliberately not putting anything written for you. You have to hear and understand. You write in any language you want. It doesn't matter. So far as you can write sampradana, you're good. This is how Sanskrit was. Sanskrit does not have its own script, period. We use Devanagari out of habit today, but it is not like that is the script for Sanskrit. Not true. Sanskrit written in Roman script is equally good. Sanskrit written in Tamil script, Grantha Tamil. In Tamil, you need Grantha because plain Tamil will not accomplish everything. Doesn't have all the sounds you need. It doesn't matter. Telugu you want, Kannada you want, Malayalam you want, write in any language. You will get the same result. Why? Because what you write is what you hear, and what you speak is what is written. It's all phonetic. Because somebody asked me, is it necessary to learn Devanagari? In this class, I will use Devanagari, but you don't need to learn Devanagari from Sanskrit really. It is independent of the script you use. So far as you can represent every sound in the language, you are in business. I don't know if you can write Sanskrit in Chinese. I don't know. Because they may not have all the sounds. Right? So the person who is given, who is the recipient of an action of giving, in an action of giving. So there's an agent of giving, right? There's an object which is given, and there is a recipient for that object to be received. Like in a Vedic homa or a yajna, the king gives a cow to a brahmana. The king gives a cow to a brahmana, or he gives a piece of land as a gift. And that piece of land or a cow is the object, karma. The king is the karta, the doer, the agent. What is the sampradana? The recipient, that brahmana who receives it, is called sampradana. Why? If you understand the word in Sanskrit, the one who, is given something is called sampradana. Pradana, dana is given. Pradana, a giving which is not a lending. Okay? Suppose the bank gives me, there's an action of giving. The bank gives me a loan. Only for what? So that he can get it back from me with an interest. That is not sampradana, okay? The recipient of the loan is not called sampradana. When he will be called sampradana? When, like in the election, they give you freebies, No, you can't take it back. Freebies. Right? Bad way. Really? What our sampradana is, predominantly in a religious life, in a life which you share, the one who gives you the privilege of being able to share is called sampradana. It's a privilege that he accepts something from you is your privilege. He need not accept. He could say, keep it. I don't need it from you. So to be able to give is a privilege, and that there is someone can accept it as a privilege. And the recipient of an action of giving is called sampradana. Is that clear? Now, the English translation for this you will find is dative. I don't know what it means, okay? Therefore, I don't like to use it. Sampradana is our word. Right? Then, the origin of the action. See, whatever I'm telling you, though I told you karta is clear, agent. But an agent need not be directly an agent. An agent could also be, the fellow who makes somebody else do. You hire a teacher to teach in your school. Who is the agent now? For the teaching, the teacher is the agent. But for you are also an agent of hiring that fellow. Therefore, in a way, you are also an agent for teaching. In a way, because you are hiring. In a way, okay? There's a causative element there. You cause, as an agent, you not only do, you cause something to happen. That's also called an agent. In fact, in a court of law, a fellow who commits a murder is not the one who is most punished. The fellow who directed to murder, if there is a separate one, will be called up. He is also karta. In fact, bigger karta. All right. Now, the origin, when I say these words again, understand, have more to it than just this much. I'm simplifying it a little more than necessary. All right. Now, the origin, the way it is defined in Sanskrit is called apadana. What is it called? Apadana. All these words you will see in a piece of paper later. Don't worry. All right. Apadana means what? Technical definition. In an action where movement is involved, that which remains unmoving is called apadana. Dhruvam apaye apadanam. Dhruvam, unmoving. Apaye, in an action of moving away. That which is unmoved, dhruvam, is called apadana. Like, you have an apple on a tree. And Newton was sitting under the tree. And what happened? The apple separated from the tree. Now, there is an action of movement. It is falling. In that, what is unmoving? That branch from which it took off is unmoving. The tree is unmoving. All right. And that is a factor of action. The origin of the action movement began from there. And therefore it is called what? Apadanam. Is that clear? Now, in this, there is separation from the tree. But suppose a river is flowing from the mountain, from Gangotri, it flows to Rishikesh. Is there a separation? In a way there is, but in a way there isn't. Right? Or a mother gives birth to a child. There is an origin. Or a pot, our favorite example, comes from a lump of clay. I should not leave that, okay? Vedanta will require pot and clay all the time. So what is apadana now? The lump of clay would become the apadana in a way, a karan. Not necessarily apadana, a karan. Okay. But understand, the word apadana is not strictly confined to only separation. There are shades of meaning which we have to understand. But basic meaning is, you understand, whatever goes with the word, English word from, will fit there, generally. From. Object, whatever the word to will go, will fit there. All right. Then what's one more factor of action which we discussed? The location. The locus. That is called adhikaranam. It's called adhikaranam, not karana. Adhikaranam. Don't let it confuse you with karanam. Adhikarana is what? The locus. And this can be desha adhikaranam, a spatial location. Desha means space. Spatial location. Kala adhikaranam. Kala means time. And it could be Vishaya adhikaranam. Some topic you want to talk about, even in your head. It's a topic, a subject. They're all what called adhikarana. So, the apple fell from the tree when Newton was sitting under it in the 16th century. 16th century is what? Adhikaranam. Okay? So, the words which go with in, from, not from, sorry, in, right? On, The table, the laptop is on the lap. Lap is what? Adhikaranam. Okay. So, or I say, Indian politics is very hard to predict. Indian politics is very hard to predict. Now, what is the word Indian politics there? Why Indian? Politics is hard to predict. Politics means what now? This is the subject matter of the discussion. And therefore, that is also called what? Adhikaranam. Is it clear? Adhikaranam. Now, all these 6 are called Karaka. 6 factors of action, which make an action possible. And these are the only 6. Now, what do they represent? They represent the relationship between an action. There's a relationship between the action and the factor of the action. The nature of the relationship between the factor of an action and an action gives you one of these 6 possibilities. Is that clear? The action is eat, right? Now that has an agent of eating. There's an object of eating, right? There's a place of eating. All these get a name now. Karma, Karana, Adhikarana. And they're all doing what? They are relating a factor of an action with an action. So a Karaka is a factor of action, and that means it is somehow related to the action. That's all you need to understand. These 6 ways of relating. But there are nouns. There are nouns. There is Johnny, whose father is Tom. Now, Tom and John have nothing to do with an action, but there are 2 nouns. The relationship between nouns is not a Karaka. Relationship between nouns is just called in plain talk Sambandha, a relationship. It's called a Sambandha, a relationship. Whereas the relationship between an action and the factors of action are specialized, and each of those relations have got a name. Kartrikaraka, Karmakaraka, Karanakaraka, Sampradanakaraka, Apadanakaraka, Adhikaranakaraka. 6 of them. 6 Karakas, which tell you the relationship between an action and the nouns with which it relates. The factors are all nouns. And then there is the relationship between nouns. Now, this you appreciate is true whether you're talking in French or Latin or Greek or Japanese or Chinese. Makes no difference. This is how human communication is. Is that right? Are you with me? Makes no difference which language you speak in. Now the point is, how do you choose to express these relationships in a sentence? And there are differences. How do you choose to represent words? There are differences. We have characters, right? We have sounds, in fact, sound symbols. In fact, we have sound symbols to start with. Later, they got a form symbol. And the form symbols for us are different from the Chinese form symbols generally. Correct? If you go to Japanese, what do you have? You have an alphabet kind of thing. And you also have pictures. So you have something called hiragana, katakana, something like that. There's this, which are specific forms. But then you have also kanji, which means you have pictures. I always wonder how Chinese learn their pictures, because everything is supposed to be a picture. How do you learn? If you ask us to learn today, it's not easy. But for them, it's natural, right? But pictures have their own nuances. But you find later invention in Japanese, I think, I'm not sure, okay? But there are pictures, kanji, but they also have sound symbols through which you can represent more, right? So for us, actually, it's all not visual pictures, they were sound pictures. And later we have what? Visual letters, which represent each sound, right? So you get words by putting these symbols together, right? And now these words are related. This is clear. That's what we want to communicate. That's communication, how they relate with each other. And that relationship is expressed through a sentence. So what's a sentence? It's words which are syntactically connected with each other. Words which are syntactically connected with each other. That syntax is where languages can have a lot of difference. Words, there can be difference, right? So in English, how do you put a sentence together? The agent of an action is a fellow, a boy, a boy. He eats, action is eating. What? An apple, right? On the dining table with a spoon, happily. Okay. Now to say this, what all did I need to do? Boy is clean, one word for the agent. Eats, eats, right? What? An apple. The eats must precede an apple. You can't put it elsewhere. The location of the word eats is very significant. Correct? Eats an apple. Sitting. Where? On a chair. On. Chair can't come before. So what is connecting these now? You have word on, you have word to, you have word in. These are called what in English? Prepositions. A is called A and B are called what? Articles. Right? All these are involved and you have to organize them in an order. Right? Subject, object. Subject, predicate. In English, you talk about it. Whether it's active voice or passive voice, you have to organize them correctly. The boy eats an apple. The apple is eaten by a boy. By a, why did you make it? Because you need to specify that. So these requirements are universal in every language. Doesn't change. How does Sanskritam approach this as a language? Here, every word has a responsibility to indicate how it would relate with other words. Every word has a responsibility to indicate how it relates to other words in the sentence. Is that making sense? Which means if I want to say the boy eats an apple, the boy is not just the boy. The word boy has to include something to indicate the boy is the agent of eating. Has to include. Okay? The verb eat must indicate that it is related to the agent. Must indicate. Because I could say the apple is eaten by the boy. Now, eaten goes with the apple, not with the boy. You understand me? Therefore, the verb, in English, you make differences by changing the location. But in Sanskrit, I'm saying the word itself must indicate it's an agent or it's not. It's an object or it's an instrument or it's an origin or it's a apadana, or it's a sampradana, it should indicate. And the verb should indicate I am connected to the agent, active usage, or am I connected to the object, passive usage? It must indicate. There are no prepositions. There are no prepositions, which means even though you know the word boy, you cannot use it in a sentence until you know how it will relate to other things in that sentence, the action and other nouns as well. You have to know. Now, you have to include all this information in a word, not a separate word like a preposition or article, etc. That is what makes Sanskritam different from English, different from Hindi. But you will find the same idea is there in many Indian languages. Many Indian languages. Wherein, when you use a verb, when you use a word, that word will tell its relationship with the verb. It will. And that is something which is very, very critical. Therefore, what it brings down, to understand the Sanskrit language, you have to now understand how to use both verbs and nouns in a way that they can express their relationship inherently with other words in the sentence. And every word must be able to speak of all possible relationships it can have. Therefore, you get many forms of one base word. Okay, this is true of verbs, this is true of nouns. When it comes to verbs, verbs means words indicating actions. There are multiple types, all right? But we will talk of, you will hear this more tomorrow, but we'll talk of two primary types of words in the language, in Sanskrit language. One is called tinganta. Tinganta. Anta means ending. Ending in a suffix called ting. And another set of words is called sup anta. Ending in a suffix called sup. Simplifying the matter, ting means verb endings. Sup means noun endings. Okay. Now, the verb endings have to be able to tell you whether the verb is an agent, related to the agent or the object. It should tell you whether there is one agent, two agents, or more than two. In English, we have only a singular and a plural. Two numbers, singular, plural. Sanskrit is a little different. We have a singular, a dual, and a plural. Three numbers, singular, dual, plural. All right. And then the idea of person is there in every language. The words we use are first person, second person, third person for a verb, for an action. What is first person? I. Is this clear? First person means what? I. What is second person? You. The person I'm talking to, you. And what is third person? Everything other than I and you. Is this clear? I, you, everything other than I and you. All right. Now, first person in Sanskrit is called Uttama Purusha. Uttama Purusha. First person. Second person is called Madhyama Purusha. And the third one can be a little confusing for those who know some Sanskrit. Prathama Purusha. Prathama means what? First. Don't translate first person. It is third person. Be careful. Okay? Third person. So some books also use the word Anya Purusha. Anya means other. That makes it very simple. Other than first and second. But unfortunately, more books than not will use the word Prathama Purusha. So better get used to the idea of Prathama Purusha is third person. Madhya Purusha is the one you are talking to, second person. And Uttama Purusha is I. How many numbers? Singular, Ekavachanam. Dual, Dvivachanam. Plural is what? Bahuvachanam. Bahu means many. What is many? More than two. More than two is Bahu. All right. Now, every verb, every action word has to say whether it indicates the agent or the object. Those are only two or three things that can indicate. We'll look at it tomorrow. And then it should say what's the person and what's the number. And the action itself is indicated by the meaning of the root. The suffix, the pratyaya, tells you the other things I mentioned. The person, the number, and the sense in which it is used, connected to object or the agent, is all said by the pratyaya. Root remains same. Therefore, thing tells you these. And now, if you make a matrix, first person, second person, third person, singular, dual, plural. What do you get? A matrix of 9. This is how every single verb in the language has to be used. You cannot use pat. You cannot use bhu. You have to decline it or conjugate it, depending on how you use the word. But this is why Sanskrit in the beginning means you have to first understand how to express a word as it relates with others. When you talk of a verb, it's called a verb conjugation. That is called dhatu rupa. And what's the other side? Nouns are called shabda. And they have more dimensions, which you'll look at later, another day. But they have a 7x3 matrix. 3 is the same. Singular, plural, dual. But 7 senses, 6 karakas and 1 sambandha. That makes it 7. So there are 21 forms for every possible noun word. And how they will decline depends on the word. All right. So therefore, our 2 books are what? Basic books. Shabda Rupa Manjari, which will talk about all these noun forms, and Dhatu Rupa Manjari, which will talk about verb forms. Reference books. Very important. Okay. So this is the basis. And if you remember, we had put out, long ago, I gave you shared with you the audio files. There are a lot of audio files now. And you can learn listening to them. You have to do it sooner or later. All right. So you might as well bite the bullet soon. So I can't stay without using too many Sanskrit words for too long. I'm giving you a little more time. Okay. Today I have tried to keep it very minimal. So you enjoy the class and understand what's involved. Once you understand, to use any verb, a sentence requires a verb. And to use a verb, you need to be knowing how one of these 9 forms are. And 9 forms is for 1 tense. Present tense, past tense, future tense. If I tell you all the tenses, you become tense. Okay. Therefore, there are 10 things called tenses and moods. They are called lakaras. Okay. So this is what will be the verbs. Tomorrow we will look into it more. Okay. And for those who have time, I will share with you a little more. I'll show you what's on the shared folder so you can start playing with this. I want you to start playing. Okay. So it was a prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So just give me 2 minutes. I will show you a screen, which is the shared folder. Okay. All right. So you will find this is the folder I have shared with you earlier. Okay. And that folder has got, sorry, this is the folder I've shared you, Sanskrit Online. And that has got few folders below, references, Sanskrit classes, and then a README, which you should read, right? And this catalog sheet is something which we will try to maintain what was done in each class. So it's easy for people to follow what's happening in a class. Now, if you go to references, you will find a folder with audios. Okay. So you will find various routes with different forms. You'll understand is more after tomorrow's class with a chanting which you can learn from. All right. And then there is one more called audios for nouns, Shabdarupa. Okay. It's again something you can start playing with. And then if you go to this folder called Dhaturupa slides, you will find a G slide, a Google slide file. Okay. You click on it and this is what you will get. Are you able to see what I'm showing you? Is it shared? No, let me share it. Give me 1 second. Okay. You share. Okay. All right. Now do you see it? Okay. So I'll run a slideshow. You see what's it showing now? So you go down one. So for example, you look at now the first dhatu. First root is called bhu. Look at it. It's got multiple, I told you, tenses. Okay. First tense is this. All right. The first tense is this. So what do you see now? Singular, dual, plural. First person, sorry, third person, second person, first person, in that order. Okay. And the forms for each. And if you go here and click, you will be able to hear it. Okay. You'll be able to hear it and also use it. So you will find that for verbs, we have created a few up front. So you can see how they are there and how they will chant. So you get yourself familiarized with these, you will find your life getting easier. Okay. You can always use Shabda Manjari, Dhatu Manjari. You don't have to go online. But if it helps you, you're welcome to use the online resources. Okay. Because the sooner you get familiar with these forms, the sooner you can run. Until then, it will all be words from me, but nothing goes here. So that has to change. And I am going to work to make it change. Okay. And you have to work. We have to be partners in crime. All right. So thank you all. We will stop now. And if you have any questions, I'll take them. Questions, suggestions, comments, any suggestions to improve, you can help. You're welcome to tell me. Or if you have questions, you're welcome to ask. Yes, Vani, please unmute yourself.
Namaste, Swamiji. Where I can access this link, I did not get the link.
Fair enough. See, because those who came for earlier meeting and shared with them, you will see it being shared today.
Okay.
In an email which comes out. Now, just at this point, I would like to note that, in the mail announcing the classes, there were two things. One, I said a link, join a group for all announcements. That many of you have joined, at least some of you have joined. But when you received the Zoom link, there was one more link there saying join a group for Sanskrit classes. Please pay attention. And Kirti, you can send that link again on chat right now. Use that to join the Sanskrit classes group. Only then you will get all the emails from me properly. Today, being the first day, I might just send it to everybody who's in the Zoom class today, but this won't happen every day. So make sure you have joined the group. That's your responsibility. All right. And that group, once you get there, you will find that I will also include the link for the folder when I send a mail today. So the top folder from where you can access things. All right. You can even send that link to the top folder if you have it, Kirti. So So that's how you'll gain access to it. All right. And we will see how to organize ourselves as we go. I mean, Kirti Vardhan has been helping me with putting the slides together. It's credit to him. He's done a wonderful job. And we're going to create more with Shabdarupas also, which will make life easier for you. And we're going to add some interesting things in those slides as we go forward. That's the idea. We'll see how it works out. Okay. Any other questions?
Namaskaram, Swamiji. Nalini here. The Sabdamanjari text that you had just shared, starting from the Bhu, should we start memorizing the Ekvachan? I mean, like
No, don't start that today. You know what you do is this. If you are going to memorize verbs, I just shared a file I just showed you right now. 2 minutes ago. There's an order in there. There's an order of verb. There are a few verbs and there's an order there.
Okay.
Right. What I would like you to start with is only the present tense called lat lakara. We'll see that more tomorrow. What is lat lakara? Present tense forms of the verbs there in that same order as the verbs are given. If you already know present tense, you're welcome to learn more. But my requirement is you first learn the present tense called lat lakara for the roots listed in that file.
Okay,
then
Swami.
You can extend yourself. I will teach you how to extend yourself later.
Thank you, Swami. Yeah, I am completely new to this language, Swami. So
okay. So as I said, take a look. But as I said, for each of them, there's an audio. You can listen and you can repeat after it. Sure. So see it and you will understand what I'm talking about.
Sure, Swami. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So even for Shabdas, I will share with you a few slides like what we saw, which will give you an order in which you should learn the words so that it's easy on you. I don't want you to go with, hard work. I want you to work hard, but work smart so that minimum work, maximum output should happen. That's the idea. So we will try to make it as easy as possible, but some memory it calls for. Because as I said, to use one verb, you better know 9 forms. Otherwise, you can't. Even for present tense, you can't. So there's no choice. You have to learn. There's absolutely no choice. If you say, I cannot learn, you might as well drop. Okay, Sampath.
Namaste, Swamiji. Learning this Sarvanama Shabda, the Sarva Shabda, I was just trying to understand between singular, dual, and Bahuvachana.
Okay, I understand your question. The word Sarva is a collective noun. Therefore, you can use singular or dual or plural. It doesn't make a big difference. That Sarva itself is collective in nature. Okay. You just memorize the forms. Don't worry about its usage right now. Don't worry about the meaning also. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other question? If you don't understand something, please. Yes, Nagarajanji. Go ahead.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
The link to join the Sanskrit classes, when we go into that, it says...
Hello?
It says you don't have the permission to join. Contact the...
No. I have mentioned, if you look, I say, ignore the message that say, you have no permission. Ignore it. You just click on the link. That's all you do. Your job is that much. Ask to join. There's a link called Ask to Join. Read your mail carefully. You won't ask this question.
Okay, Swami. Okay.
I have tried to make the mail very clear, but still I keep getting questions from people saying, please send me a link. I can't send links to anybody. I keep getting such mails and sometimes my patient runs a little low. So I should not be nasty. I won't be. I try not to, but sometimes I do lose my patience. So be a little cautious. Okay. Read your mails carefully. Mostly it will be explained. Okay. Yeah. Anything else? We stop. Okay. So whoever is making some interesting noise, you should not keep your mic. You should keep your mic on mute. So in general, please try and keep your mics on mute if you have any disturbance locally, right? Make sure you know how to raise your hand and we will see how we can move forward. So I said today, even tomorrow will be similar. We will go more with concepts so you understand things. And once we understand concepts is when we can take off. And as I said, start familiarizing yourself with noun forms and verb forms. Even if you don't have it by heart, familiarize yourself. Know this is how they are. So when I say something, it will connect in your head. Yes, Mr. Deveshia, how do I pronounce your name? Deveshia? Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste. How do I pronounce your name? How do you call you?
Devasya, Shashti, Devasya.
Devasya. Okay, good. All right, good.
Thank you.
That's your first name.
Yes, Swamiji.
Okay.
I have this question, Swamiji, in the Maheshwara Sutrani, the krama of the vowels and consonants are different from the Devanagari. So I agree with that you said that, Sanskrit language has no particular lipi. It's independent. I agree with that. But normally be linked with the Devanagari script. So how does the krama of the Maheshwara Sutrani is different from Devanagari script?
This is for now out of syllabus. Okay, we'll come to it when we get there. You may understand, a lot of people won't. I will come to it in some time. Your question will be answered, but you have to be patient. Okay. Because Maheshwara Sutra is I'm not coming into it right now. I want you to first understand language basics, then we will go to sutras, not before.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But in answer to a brief answer to your question is, the sutras organize the letters in a given sequence so that it's easier for rules to be defined later. You will understand when I explain it later. Okay. It's a very, very brilliant way of organizing the letters, because of that, Panini is able to create a group of just 44 groups of letters. And each group is used in the grammar somewhere. There are only 44 groups he uses, and all of them are derivable as just 2 letters through those Maheshwara Sutras. That's why the sequence is different. I will explain that when we look into Maheshwara Sutras. Okay. Something else?
Yeah, thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Should we stop?
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Namaste, Swamiji. Thank you.
Yes, sir.